All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle something that has totally changed the game for building software: domain-driven design. And hey, don't worry, this isn't just for the super technical folks. This is really a strategic way of thinking that connects your business goals directly to the tech that makes it all happen. Okay, let's get into it.
But first, let's start with a question that I bet hits close to home for a lot of you. Why is it that every new shiny piece of software eventually turns into this tangled mess that's just slow, expensive, and honestly, kind of scary to update? It's a pain that almost every growing company feels, right? Where your tech starts feeling less like an asset and more like an anchor.
And this, right here, this really nails it. This is the one challenge that unites everybody, from the CEO in the corner office to the developer who just started last week. How do we build things that can actually grow and change with the business without it costing a fortune or taking months for a simple update? This is the exact problem domain-driven design was created to solve.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this problem of change? Well, domain-driven design comes in with a pretty radical idea. Stop thinking about the technology first. Seriously, forget the databases, forget the cool new frameworks, just for a minute. The real starting point is the business itself.
So first up, let's just break down the name, domain. And no, we're not talking about your website's domain name. The domain is the actual world your business lives in. It's the messy, complicated reality of shipping packages or managing finances or selling products. It's the problem you're trying to solve, not the code you're writing to solve it. Then you've got design, which is pretty much what you'd think it is, the blueprint. But we're not talking about colors and logos here. This is the architectural plan. It's about figuring out what each piece of the software is responsible for, and this is the crucial part, how all those pieces are going to communicate with each other to achieve a goal.
So you put those two things together, and what do you get? This really simple but powerful idea. Domain-driven design just means that the reality of your business, your domain, is what should dictate the structure of your software. It's design. The code you write should be a mirror image of how your business actually works. The business leads, technology follows.
I love this slide because it shows the split so clearly. Over on the left, you've got the business space. You know, the messy real world, with all its experts, its weird rules, and its unique problems. On the right, you have the technical space. The code, the servers, the clean world of logic. DDD forces us to get an incredibly deep understanding of the left side before we even think about writing a line of code for the right side.
All right, so that's the big idea, the philosophy. But how do you actually do it, like in the real world? Well, the next step is all about using DDD's tools to draw a map of your business.
Well, it all starts by taking a step back. First, you just identify the whole shebang, your entire domain. So let's say it's a car dealership. Then the magic happens. You start looking for the different parts of that business. We call these subdomains. And you realize, hey, sales is a totally different world from financing, which is completely different from the service department. You stop seeing it as one big blob.
Now, this is a really important one. Once you've found a subdomain in your business, you create something in your software called a bounded context. The best way to think of it is like putting up a digital fence. Inside that fence, a very specific language and a very specific set of rules apply, and it keeps all the complexity from the rest of the system out. And this is the perfect example of why those fences are so critical. Think about the word client. In the sales world, a client is someone thinking about buying a car. But you walk over to the financing department, and a client is a borrower with a loan application and a credit score. Same word, two totally different meanings. By creating separate bounded contexts, our software can handle that reality without becoming a confusing mess. Another super powerful thing DDD gives us is a way to prioritize. You classify your subdomains. Your core domain, that's your secret sauce. It's the reason customers choose you over the competition. Supporting domains are things you have to do to help the core, but they aren't a competitive advantage. And generic domains? That's the stuff everyone has to do, like sending emails or handling payroll. This map tells you exactly where to put your best engineers and your biggest budget. And look, this isn't some new, flashy trend that's going to disappear next year. DDD has been around for 2 decades. It kicked off with Eric Evans' classic Blue Book, which laid out all these big strategic ideas. Then folks like Von Vernon came along and showed us how to actually implement it. And it's still evolving today, which just goes to show how solid these principles really are.
Okay, so you might be thinking, a 20-year-old idea, why are we talking about it now? Because honestly, it's never been more important. It turns out that domain-driven design is the perfect blueprint for pretty much every major trend happening in tech right now. You know, everyone's talking about microservices, but the million-dollar question is always, how small should a service be? Where do we draw the lines? Well, guess what? You already have the answer. Those bounded contexts you mapped out, they are the natural seams in your business. They are the perfect blueprints for your microservices. And this doesn't just change your code, it completely changes how you structure your teams. Instead of having a database team and a UI team that are always waiting on each other, you create teams that own an entire business capability. You have a financing team or a service team. You give them the autonomy to solve problems from start to finish, which makes them incredibly fast and motivated.
And what about the future? I mean, everyone is buzzing about AI agents, right? Well, what is a truly useful AI agent? It's a digital expert in a very specific business area. So how do you define what it knows, what its job is, and where its responsibilities end? You guessed it. Domain-driven design gives you the perfect framework to design smart, focused AI agents that solve real problems instead of just being a cool tech demo.
Okay, let's wrap this all up and bring it back to you. After seeing how this one idea can literally shape your code, your teams, and even your AI strategy, it's time to kind of turn the mirror back on our own organizations. There's this almost legendary idea in tech called Conway's Law. And what it says is that the design of your software system will inevitably end up looking just like the communication structure of your company. So if your teams are siloed and communication is a tangled mess, well, your software's probably going to look like a tangled mess too. Which brings us to the final and maybe most important question for you to think about. Go back and take an honest look at your company's systems. Does their structure look like a clean, logical map of your business? Or is it telling a different story? A story of confusion, tangled dependencies, and old compromises. The answer tells you a lot more than just the state of your code. It tells you the state of your business.